It doesn't really matter where you are in the sporting world and certainly the soccer world. It is one of those situations that resonates when someone like Diego Maradona passes away. And Bob Lenarduzzi, a longtime member of the Canadian Soccer Hall of Fame and a member of Canada's national team. Bob, when you kind of heard the news, did it make you kind of think back to some of the greatness that we saw from Diego?
It did two things. That was one, and I think at a time like this where a legend passes, that hopefully most of the memories are of what he did on the pitch and how good he was. But of course, he also had another life off the pitch that he lived, and I don't think he really cared what people thought. But so those were the two things that first came to mind. But his brilliance, when he talks about the hand of God goal against England, clearly it was a handball, but he never ever admitted that it was a handball, and he said it was divine intervention. Well, I actually think there was divine intervention when he was born, because you don't achieve that kind of ability. You're born with it, and he was in a league of his own in terms of the impact that he had on the game.
Do you think, Bob, that his legacy is greater in some ways because he lived this fast and furious lifestyle? And you mentioned the hand of God. After that was, within 4 minutes, it was the goal of the century, people say. I mean,
yeah, no, that and you bringing that up is what I've talked about this morning to other people as well. Is in the same game, he's the villain.
Yeah.
And then he's able to actually eradicate a little bit of that villain in him by scoring a goal against an England team who are renowned for their defending. And he takes off from inside his own half, beats a half a dozen players, and then to add insult to injury, he goes around Peter Shilton and has a tap in. And so there you go. That's it. They're the two extremes with Diego Maradona. He's the bad guy, and then all of a sudden, that's what people remember him for. But I also remember vividly too that for him, beating England wasn't just beating another great soccer country. There was politics involved, and there was a real sense of defeating the opposition, not just on the pitch but off of it as well.
You both, you being Canada and Bob Lenarduzzi and Diego in Argentina, were at the 1986 World Cup. You didn't have a chance to play him then, but tell us a story about almost playing him and that country a number of years later.
Yeah, in the build up to the 94 World Cup, we played Mexico in Toronto to go to the 94 World Cup. We were up 1-0. We ended up losing 2-1. At that time, it was 24 countries, not 32. And there was only one representative from CONCACAF, which was going to be Mexico, because the Americans, by virtue of hosting, were in. So we then had to go the backdoor route, which was to play the winner of Oceania, which was Australia. And we played Australia over 2 games. We're deadlocked at 3-3, ended up losing on penalty shots. Had we won the penalty shots, we would have had to pay the 5th place finisher in South America, which no one assumed would be Argentina because they're normally higher, and it happened to be Argentina. And I remember watching the 2 games between Australia and Argentina, and Maradona had made a comeback at that point and was pretty dominant. So we were penalty shots away from actually playing him to get to the World Cup in 94.
Bob, do you think that there never has been and there never will be another player, another personality maybe like Diego Maradona?
It's interesting because when you think about Lionel Messi, he's been great on the pitch, but and off the pitch, relatively unscathed. He's led a good life. He hasn't got himself into any trouble. Mm-hmm. Having said that, when you look at those two, that's what I would envision if Maradona's ability had coupled with Messi's off-field personality. He might not have been demonized as much as he was for what he did off the pitch. Having said that, if you ask any Argentinian right now, who's better, Messi or Maradona, they will tell you Maradona because he won a World Cup and Messi hasn't. So it's I think it's about what you win and not so much how you win it.
Bob, a difficult day in the soccer world, so we do appreciate your time and your insight into, Diego Normando Maradona, who was one of the greats of all time.
Yes, and he will be revered. And the interesting thing is, and you said this right off the top, all over the world, people will be hearing this story. And in North America, it's getting a lot of play, and we're not necessarily a soccer countries in this part of the world, but nevertheless, it hasn't stopped people talking about him, and so they should, because his impact on the pitch was, as I said earlier, second to none.
Bob, I really appreciate your time and your insight into one of the all-time greats.
My pleasure. Thank you, Gene.